Welcome to China Manufacturing Decoded from Sofeast, the podcast where we take you through the major news and topics facing importers and manufacturers in China and Asia today. Hi everyone, thanks for joining us here on China Manufacturing Decoded again. It's episode 92 this time. I'm Adrian from the Sofeast team and I'm joined by RCO and host Renaud Angeran. Renaud, hi.
Hey there. Hi everybody.
How you doing, Renaud? You good?
Yeah, not bad. Ready to go. How about you?
Yeah, absolutely. We're now into the post-Chinese New Year period, just about. So it's quite an interesting time of the year, isn't it?
Yeah, just restarting everything, restarting all the activities. Some activities that can't really wait. A lot of people have been waiting on some engineering developments or even some production or some kitting. So all of these have they have some pressure to go ahead. And then on the other extreme, you have some project managers on projects where it's about working with suppliers who are still on holiday or very slowly resuming work, and also the quality assurance teams. Well, in China, they're really not busy at all these days. Following up a bit on the work in India, Bangladesh, Vietnam, and so on, but not much going on in China. Everybody finished the batches and shipped everything they could before CNY. So when it resumes, there's, the holidays for them are not 2 weeks. It is more like 5 weeks, kind of.
Yeah.
Half the team is on extended holiday, or more than half the team, actually. So, yeah.
Yeah, so still getting through it. Okay, so today's topic, actually, we're continuing our series where we've been discussing how to do your own sourcing from China, and that's everything from finding suppliers for your products through to getting them made. And so far, we've discussed hard skills in episodes 1 to 4, and that includes identifying suppliers, negotiating your terms, specifications, managing projects, checking product quality. If you're listening and you're thinking, hang on, I don't think I've heard these, don't worry, I'll leave some links in the show notes to those. But sourcing from China also includes soft skills, right? And this is where our attention turns today. We're going to focus on how to build rapport with your supplier or suppliers. I suppose, Renaud, it kind of goes without saying that you need a good relationship with suppliers. So, please just set the scene by giving some reasons why it's advantageous to build that good relationship.
Basically, it's 3 situations when you work with a Chinese supplier. Situation 1 maybe is they don't even know you. They see your name, they see some PO numbers and some samples you sent to them or whatever, but they don't know you, and everything is very dehumanized and all in written form and everything. And that if the business itself, the amount of money and the ease for them of treating your orders are all good, that might be fine, okay? And as long as there's really no issues, and we'll talk about that. Situation 2 maybe is that they actually know you. They know, your face. They know what you like, what you don't like, and whatever. You've been there. They've seen you. They've shaken hands. They've you had a big dinner together. Cracked some jokes and told some stories and showed some photos of the family and all these kind of things. And what I'm going to basically explain in this episode is that this is positive. It's not necessarily sufficient though, but it's positive. And let's say this situation 2, let's say this way, they know who you are and they have a positive impression about you. Okay. It also comes from what you do through the business relationship and the hiccups that tend to happen from time to time. Situation number 3 is they know you and actually they don't like you, right? So it might be that, there's a word, mafan, is just someone who's like a pain, right? That you hear that in China a lot. Mafan ko. Okay, this customer is a pain. Well, it doesn't mean that they will not do things. The boss might say, no, hey guys, it's a lot of money at stake. We really need these guys. Otherwise, it's going to be a big hole in our schedule and everything. We need to make them keep them around, keep them happy. The people are going to be like, and they don't really like you. And when there's 3 urgent things to work on, well, the ones from the customers they like will tend to go first, these kind of things. And maybe the good people will tend to say, well, I need to work on that stuff. And then they leave it to more junior staff who don't have a choice what projects they follow. And then you end up working with, very junior English-speaking people who have no clue what's going on, no experience in the company, and so on their job. So these are the 3 situations, and as you can see, there is a difference. There is a difference. If you have good rapport with them, if for some reason you need them to give you a favor, maybe, for example, one of our clients told us, "Oh yeah, this we placed the order, but it was kind of too late." But our customers really needed it fast, and then we pushed the factory, and they hurried up, they prioritized our orders, and then they shipped everything 10 days earlier. What that would not really happen if you are, if they don't like you, and especially if your business is not very significant. Right? If business is significant, they don't really like you, they might still do it, but it's less likely, right? And of course, that customer then flew in some presents for them and made it very clear that it was very, very highly appreciated. And then since a favor, of course, next time maybe it's the supplier who needs a favor or who screws up a bit, well, the customer will have to be a bit more patient with them and say, well, yeah, okay, let's work together on that. And that's what the Chinese side expects, reciprocity. And we're going to go through a few key topics, key themes, as a preamble to this episode, so people really understand the thinking of the Chinese side. But a big one is reciprocity, is give and take. It's if they give you a favor on something, if you say, no, please, so it could be a lower price, it could be whatever. They expect reciprocity on something, even if it's not said, it's not clearly, agreed and everything. So yeah, just I talked about price. Well, if they agree to a lower price, say, okay, well, we're not really making much money, okay, but like they show you that it's costing them. That's what they're doing. And then when you come back and say, well, quality is not something I can accept. Look at this, look at that. Then they will feel that you are unreasonable because, they made an effort on price. You should make an effort on quality. To them, everything is at the same level, except, of course, the Chinese suppliers were very, very used to working with export customers, and and they understand, and especially if the quality issues might be related to compliance and safety. And okay, these folks, they can understand, but I'm talking about 95+% of Chinese exporting companies. They do not understand. They really have this understanding that everything is linked, right? So reciprocity is a big thing.
Yeah, and I think you've written before. Maybe a lot of this stems from the cultural side of things, and this is maybe something that if you're not used to dealing with Chinese suppliers, or you haven't lived in China like I have, or you have, of course, that it might be a little bit foreign, and I guess that's the correct word, isn't it? It's foreign, right? Mm-hmm. But foreign doesn't mean bad or wrong, but it's something that has to be gotten used to, and that's what this episode's about. And
it's different.
Yeah, and you've got that sort of village, almost sort of like village.
Yes.
I don't want to say mentality. I think more like
Oh
kind of
yeah.
like setup where people know
Mhm.
each other. So if they do their neighbor a favor, they'll expect one in return, and and then does that spill over into the business side of things? And that brings me on to the next point, actually, because I think it'd be good for you to explain, maybe the concept of the inner or outer circle to
Right,
Chinese
right.
suppliers and Chinese people.
Yeah, the Chinese people in general.
Mm.
So if to someone in China, yeah, there's like circles. You that's the best way to think about it, I think. You have the inner circle, if you're a family member, well, okay, that's long-term relationship, there's trust, right? If you are you went through to the same school or something, okay, that's kind of okay, inner circle, you're in the network. If
Mm.
if you are, I don't know, if it's someone from Chaozhou or Meizhou or whatever, who moved to Shenzhen, and then they find each other and they're like, oh yeah, yeah, same hometown, cool, and then they already feel a connection right here, right?
Yeah.
And that's their primary way of deciding whom to trust or not to trust, I would say. And then you have, and then they get a booth on the Canton Fair. Or, okay, that was a few years ago now, but they get on Alibaba.com or globalsources.com, and then they have some people that they've never heard of before contact them. Well, these people are in the outer circle. There's no trust.
Mm.
Now, know that there's a certain game to be played and everything, but that's the cultural context here, right? They don't care about you. If you're in the outer circle, they don't think long term about how to keep you in their network, how to get the relationship going and keep it going for years and years. They don't tend to do that. It's something
Mm.
that's very much expected in Europe, in North America, and so on, where you're in business and you just want the business to grow, and of course you need to keep some long-term customers, and and you from the start you think, okay, how to make this a long-term thing, and but to the Chinese side this is less obvious, I would say this way. I don't want to be too
Mm.
black and white, but
Sure.
it's you're in the outer circle. You need to understand that at the start, and you
Hmm.
might move gradually to the inner circle. Chinese people tend to be pretty open about foreigners, people from totally from another country and everything. There's no there's some countries where it's much harder actually to get closer than China. That's a good side of China, but you have to be aware of where it starts, right? So that's the concept of inner versus outer circle.
Mm. So, in order to sort of break into that inner circle, which is in essence building a better rapport, is it worth trying to sort of make friends with your supplier, with the staff there?
It helps, but you have to be aware that just because you have, how to say, yeah, you spend some time with them and they invited you to a nice dinner and da 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 da, and they showed you photos of their kids and everything. You are not in the inner circle yet. It takes time.
Mm.
It takes time. So I would say, yes, of course, you cannot help. You have to show them you're a human, you're a person, and you're opening up, and you're actually interested in them as a person. That definitely helps. However, just after one or two encounters, and like everybody's so nice and da da da, and give you gifts and whatnot, and then you think, whoa, they're totally into me, like we're like Lao Penyo, like old friends, Well, not exactly, not true, not yet, not yet.
Yeah, and even if you do have that sort of friendly relationship, that shouldn't also come before the business as well, right?
Yes, I would say. business first. You might have heard that China is the country of who knows whom, and it's all about personal relationships and things like that. That's true to an extent. However, the business interest has to be there, and you have to show that you defend your business, and they will respect you for that. As long as it's seen as in a balanced and fair way. I think that is so important. What I just said, it's got to your actions have to be seen as balanced, fair, reasonable, right? And this is even more true maybe with Chinese people than other countries. They can get offended by something they see as very unfair, something quite important to them. And if they make mistakes, that's fine. That will happen. They can expect that you will get back to them and complain about it, and that you will not be very happy. As long as it's clear that it's a mistake, you understand, you don't want to just put them down. So that brings us to the third concept that we wanted to clarify. Is the concept of face. If they see you as just trying to put them down and belittle them, make them feel really small, and especially in public, especially if there's a lot of people in CC in an email or in a conference call, other people listening, and then you start to really say, you really did a bad job, and what's wrong with you, and things like that. That they're losing face. They're using some, let's say, valuable social credits, and you are losing them as a support in their company, right? Don't play with that. Be respectful to people, right? Act in a fair and balanced way, and reasonable and predictable. Be as predictable as possible. You have to tell them if certain things are very important. Write it to them, black and white. Ask them to confirm it. And writing. Make sure that they understand the consequences of it. That's something. Actually, I found that useful in training Chinese staff. If you want them to really understand the in and out of potential mistakes, of risks, you have to actually explain. This is going to cost that much because this is going to happen, and then all of these people will be impacted, and then blah 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 blah, and then they get it. They're not dumb, but you kind of have to do that. And then if you do that properly, and they make a mistake, and you get back to them, and you're pissed, well, they totally understand and will really apologize. If you've done all of that, in advance, and they will feel bad, and they'll be more likely to work with you on a way to make sure it doesn't happen again, and pay a lot of attention to it, and so on. Right?
Sure.
So, the key words here is fair and balanced, and no surprises, and predictable if possible. Emphasize what is important to you and why in advance. Make sure they understand the implications of that, and never lash out on someone in public, because they would just hate you for that. They would. Yeah. I've seen cases where, I remember, wow, that was the first time it would become really obvious to me. Maybe 15 years ago or more, and about 15 years ago. And we're in a factory, and you have this French customer. French, we like to complain loudly sometimes to be a pain, and we found some issues on some products, and then there was the merchandiser, who had very little to do with that. It was mistakes more in the process of finishing the product anyway. And the product was the customer was taking the products and showing it, nearly shoving them in the face of the merchandiser. Like, look at that, what's wrong? What, do you understand this is really bad? Blah, blah, blah. And they keep asking some questions. And then after that, I asked him, why? And then the merchandiser, totally blanked out, and then the French guy kept going, because he didn't have a response. So he kept going. So it was terrible in the Chinese eyes. But after that, I asked the customer, I say, hey, why you do it that way? I'm not sure that's the most appropriate, actually, if you want to get to certain results. And it's like, no, it's like when you train a dog, they like, the shit in the house, and then you really need to show them that it's bad and like stick their face into it and whatever, and then they don't do it again. I was like, this is the worst image you could you could conjure. I mean, this is the last thing you need to do here. This is the exact opposite of what you should be doing. Yeah. What he should have done is go to a blackboard and say, okay, these are the production processes here, right? Okay, where does this originate? And and what, like, step by step, logical, and then make it very non-personal. Otherwise, if you're just blaming and not problem solving, then you're not going to go very far.
No, although I think the whole concept of face, and I think rightfully the Chinese member of staff that was, faced with that situation, rightfully has a good case to say, I'm not going to listen to this guy, and I think everybody can agree with that. But I think the whole concept of face can be a little bit daunting because it's sort of quite foreign. But honestly, when you're in China, I don't think you need to go around, walking on eggshells. Basically, just behave like you would in your own country. Just be, just give people normal respect and communicate normally. If there's an issue, just talk one-on-one behind closed doors or whatever. It's, blowing your top in the factory. If you did it in America or France or the UK, that probably wouldn't really be acceptable. So why is it okay in China?
That is true, yes. And then you have the people who go totally the other way, are kind of really afraid of alienating their supplier, and they're like, oh, we got to be really careful here. It's China, like already probably don't follow their etiquette, and they probably already see me as a barbarian. I need to be careful, and I need to speak to them in soft tone and be very, very understated in everything I say, and and I'm like, look, these people are very direct. Most of them, they grew up in the countryside, and they're very direct. In factories, these days you go to a factory in China and you listen to them, especially in production, how they speak. And it's like, it can be pretty direct. So I would not say sugarcoat too much, because they might actually not even understand, or they might think, well, they say it, but it looks like it's not very important, However, do not scold people in front of other people. I think that's the one thing that you need to keep in mind. And for the rest, I would not worry too much.
Yeah, good tips there. I think that's very, very fair, and that definitely aligns with my experience as well. So that's kind of the cultural side of things addressed. If we're going to go and build good rapport with our Chinese supplier, what sort of tips can you provide today then? I suppose the first is regarding seeing them.
Yes. As I say, if they know who you are, you stand a better chance already of having their attention, having them, think about you, and respond to your emails, which is with Chinese suppliers is not always a given. So if you ask me, 3 years ago before COVID, well, of course you need to go there, and then you have you have regular production. You need to be there several times a year, and most purchasers or purchasing managers were doing a trip like 4 or 5 times a year, right? Once they have substantial business, that where it makes sense. You don't just go once a year. And I remember some people were like, oh, I haven't come for 5 years now. The price goes up like crazy. I have all kinds of issues. I don't know why. Well, you better come. You better come. Now, these days, what I would say is you have to schedule some regular calls, at least once a month, probably every 2 weeks, maybe even every week if there's substantial work, substantial developments underway, and make it video calls. It can be brief, have sort of set up an outline of the topics you want to cover, And then after that, okay, who has to do what? Make it simple for them to follow up. But even a 10 minutes quick call with video regularly will go a long way, will really help you stay top of mind. That's really something that not many people do, but I think it's a mistake.
Yeah, and you've mentioned before, that keeping the motivation going with Chinese suppliers, if they feel like a project is maybe getting a bit stale or it's quite slow, they may move on to something else which is a bit more attractive. So if you're not being seen, then maybe that also makes that more likely, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, out of sight, out of mind, right?
Yeah,
and it's human nature. I should not have to say that. Is it more important with Chinese suppliers? Probably, because they're the difference in the ways of thinking are such that there are more misunderstandings, and because of all of these misunderstandings, regular checkups are very important, right? But apart from that, I mean, it's just human nature.
Yeah. Okay. And then the next point is how to be seen as, and I'm using air quotes here, a good customer.
You want to be seen as a good customer. Yeah, that's for sure. No doubt.
Yeah.
So just, again, just to repeat, if you're seen as a good customer, they will tend to bend over backward when you need something. They would tend to respond to your request for little favors or extra attention to something or whatever, and they would be afraid of losing you, right? They might they're less likely maybe to try to gouge you on price and so on. So good customers for them are the customers that will still be there maybe in 4 or 5 years and make profit along the way, right? That's a good customer. And also, if you have a really bad image in their eyes as a person, you will not be seen as a good customer. You will see, again, as a mafan customer, a pain. And it's hard for the people working for you to do make an abstraction of that. They will not forget it, right? So, well, how to do it? Well, that's exactly what I said earlier. You have to act in a reasonable way, as predictable as possible. Communicate a lot about what's important to you. Obviously, they need to make a profit, so don't squeeze them too much. If your orders are growing, that's a bonus. If you don't ask them to do a lot of new developments, that's a bonus. That's like an easier customer. Easier is better, of course. You don't threaten them, it's like this, maybe next time I work with one of your competitors or something, they tend to not like that too much. And if you are reasonable, predictable, fair, and so on, when something goes wrong, because things do go wrong, there's so many things that can happen. Whatever, maybe one of the components is going to arrive late, going to delay production. One of the testing stations is going to stop working for some reason, or whatever, right? When things go wrong and it impacts you, if they're afraid that you're going to lash out at them and everything, they will not tell you. They will just wait, try to figure out how to catch up behind your back. And then when it's really impossible, and especially for delays, you will notice it, but they will tell you about the last minute, and then they will bracing themselves. How are they going to react? That's not good. You don't want that. And then there are many cases where they actually hope that you may not notice, right? Quality issues. Oh, we used, another material. Oh, yes, sorry, just a mistake. Yeah, right. What do we do now, right? If you are unreasonable in their eyes, we just say, well, I'm not buying that, sorry. I don't care, and you're going to be responsible for everything. You're going to be late to the next production. It's going to be at your cost, and you're going to ship it by air and everything because you're late is your fault. That in their eyes is unreasonable. Now, if you try to say, well, this is really a mess up, I mean, guys, what did happen? And okay. let me see on my side if we can accept it or not. Maybe we need to do some special bunch of tests to make sure it works the same way. Maybe we need to discuss with the key customer and maybe give them a discount so they accept it and things like that. But you try to do your share of the work, and they will love you for that, right? So, and of course, if it's something that's unacceptable, it's unacceptable. You need to explain it to them. But again, it comes back to you need to be very predictable. If you document your requirements and you explain in great length and very clearly why you cannot accept certain things and what the full implications are, then they will not be surprised. There was really, we messed up. Like, it's really our fault. We cannot. Of course, they cannot accept that. Right? That's what you want. That's what you want.
And I suppose that's connected quite a great deal to things like your product development agreement, manufacturing agreement, your quality standard, which we've spoken about so much, and that's connected here, isn't it?
True. Yes. Correct. Especially quality standard. Yes.
Absolutely. We've kind of already spoken about being polite, and that's also part of being a good customer in their eyes. So I'm not going to go back over the whole being polite. We've been over that when we spoke about the concept of face. However, another point to talk about is sort of how you're communicating and maybe utilizing email in a sort of careful way.
Right. Email is non-personal, and you need to be careful what the tone of your email is, because if you send an email when you have some bad news and you respond to them, you want to push them, pretty harsh. Maybe you write in all capitalized letters. Maybe you put something like, you use very strong words, even some bad words, maybe in bold and red and so on. Well, same thing as we discussed before. This just looks like the work of an insane person, to them, and they will imagine you actually, screaming at them, and you're not going to like it. So be careful. You need to be factual. You need to be. I see a lot of people when they exchange emails with Chinese suppliers, they go like, okay, I have 3 topics here. Number 1, number 2, number 3. Please respond point by point. And that is really helpful, because they will tend to respond to something. And if it's something they don't really want to respond to, or whatever is not so easy for them, they will just not respond. And then you have to go back and say, oh, what about that? You need to make it clear that, there's a structure. Please follow the structure. It's not that difficult. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, this is a good tip, I would say.
Okay, good. Well, that's 3, very, very important ways to build rapport. And it just goes to show that, you've done so much work when you're sourcing suppliers and, getting everything ready to go into product development and then production. But actually understanding the cultural side of things is also really important to getting a good result. So that's been very, very helpful, Renaud. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Thanks.
Thanks again for listening to this podcast, brought to you by the Sofeast Group. We're on a mission to provide you with everything you need to manufacture effectively in Asia, including inspections, auditing, new product development support, contract manufacturing, 3PL warehousing and fulfillment, and much, much more across Asia's key manufacturing areas. Visit us at sofeast.com, that's SOFEAST.com, to learn more and get help. If you've enjoyed the podcast today, please do rate, review and share, because it will really help others discover us too.